Minecraft roleplay is an understudied medium in academia. Plenty of people have written about Minecraft, and plenty of people have written about YouTube, and plenty of people have written about Minecraft YouTube, MCYT. But there is a distinct lack of academic focus on the roleplay aspect of this community. If you go onto Tumblr, a blogging site that touts itself as the home of fandom, you will find plenty of literary analysis about Minecraft roleplay. What the cinematography means, what a character's motivations say about their actions, how an improvised line delivery in a scene changed someone's brain chemistry, the like. The issue is that within academia, within a more serious context with citations and checks and balances to maintain appearances, Minecraft roleplay does not have as much of a presence. This partially comes with the territory of fandom studies as a whole. There are a lot of fandoms, and not everyone is going to have someone passionate enough to dedicate their actual real-life master's thesis to it. Minecraft roleplay is also notorious for having long, complex, interlocking, and often horrendously underwritten plotlines that are straight-up difficult to get into and explain, even when you have 100 pages to give to your held captive thesis advisor. I can only imagine that this is how my thesis advisor felt when I handed him my Tumblr meme paper. Point being, they are just plain hard to write about. As an anthropologist, my own personal studies with the Minecraft roleplay, MCRP, fandom focus much more on the aspects of the community as a whole, the people, the discourse, and the trends within the fandom at large. I want to know what drives the modes of operation. I want to apply theories to my autoethnographies. This, too, is understudied, though other fandoms have been written about extensively, and while fandom history never goes the same way twice, it often rhymes. The fandom's ephemeral qualities also make it hard to study, from deleted blogs to unarchived streams to the fast-moving pace of something popular. As an anthropologist, you tend to get lost in the weeds. While this sounds like shooting myself in the foot, especially with this zine being a non-academically published piece, my goal is to demonstrate how understudied the genre is in academia, and why more people should study it. It is one of the reasons that this zine ultimately exists. Starting out, I tried to see if there were any papers available to me online about MCRP and the narratives therein, if there was anyone else with that passion for the medium and the stories involved that had gone on to publish, rather than just to put it on a blog. It's a big fandom. The MCRP umbrella covers a lot, and yet the results I got in return were minimal. Out of the search terms Minecraft YouTube, MCYT, DSMP, Dream SMP, Empires SMP, Mayanite, Yogscast, and Hermitcraft, 4 came back without anything relevant to my search. Unfortunately, MCYT, DSMP, Empires SMP, and Mayanite were a little too close to other subjects available on Google Scholar and ResearchGate to bring up anything related to block people and their stories. The other 4, however, brought back some interesting results. Searching up Minecraft YouTube brought back little about the narratives at play within these spaces. For the most part, they talked about how YouTube videos about Minecraft can be beneficial for youth education, teaching spatial reasoning, how tutorials encourage kids to learn, how non-English speaking students have learned English through various Minecrafters videos, and how they can be used for collaborative teamwork building exercises. Other papers talked about the people creating the videos and how they exist in that creator space. One centered on the way that Minecrafters encourage their audiences to comment and drive up viewer engagement, several centered around the way female creators present themselves in the space, and others centered themselves on how male creators in the space perform masculinity and play with sexuality with their collaborators. None of these, however, touched on the narratives present. Searching for Hermitcraft largely brought back duds. Aside from the other papers mentioning various hermits in the context of tutorials or examples for how people interact, or false positives where the term only comes up once, only 2 articles stuck out to me. Jeer's linguistics paper from 2023 on body language on Hermitcraft, and Agius's 2025 piece on emergent gameplay as a vehicle for storytelling in Minecraft videos. Unfortunately, neither looked into the actual narratives being made in these videos, just into the modes and methods of their creation. How one positions their character in a Minecraft video does a lot for characterization, but there is no analysis of that characterization in any particular narrative series. Agius's work discusses emergent storytelling as a result of emergent gameplay in the Life series, mentioning Hermitcraft in the process, but does not go into what the actual plot is. Upon searching the term Yogscast, I started to get a few more hits. The Yogscast are a British gaming collective founded in 2008 by Lewis Brinley and Simon Lane, originally on the channel Blue Zephos, now simply called the Yogscast. Their flagship Minecraft series, however, would become the thing they were primarily known for. Minecraft Part 1, How to Survive the First Night, was uploaded on December 2nd, 2010, shortly after multiplayer servers were made available. This eventually morphed into Shadow of Israfel, the first MCRP on YouTube to use alternate accounts as non-player characters, or NPCs. There were people on the other side of the keyboard, but Lewis and Simon, or as their characters are known, Zaphos and Honeydew, were the only ones the audience ever heard speak out loud. The aforementioned paper on how male creators play with sexuality in MCYT, I Love You, No Homo, by Potts in 2014, touches on the way roleplay enters the picture, but does not discuss the narratives as a whole. In Content, Conduct, and Apologies in Tumblr Fandom Tags from 2018, Neil Hotch describes the way that the fandom posted about two romantic fan pairings in The Blackrock Chronicle and Sipsco with Sips and Shin, mentioning how one was a plot device for a roleplay, but does not discuss the actual content of the MCRP itself, and critically leaves out how upload frequency and plot relevance during that posting period affected the amount of posts made about the series. It is in Esther McCallum Stewart's work that I found the most luck. Her extensive work in fan and game studies, often with the Yogscast as a point of focus, provided many points for future research. While she does not talk about the overarching plot of Shadow of Israfel, she does discuss the impetus for creating it and a few of the events of the plot itself. It shouldn't have been a surprise that searching for Dream SMP yielded the most results. The Dream SMP, which ran from 2020 to 2023, was a highly popular, heavily discoursed MCRP server, started by YouTubers Dream and George Not Found, consisting of over 35 players and many, many story arcs for each player. While the server's reputation precedes itself, for better or worse, it serves as a primary case study for MCRP narratives in the present state of the wider fandom. The top spot on Google Scholar was taken by the controversial Live Now, assessing parasocial relationships through the evolution of the Dream SMP fandom space by Durand in 2023. The title of this paper is misleading. Its entire focus is specifically on the Dream Team fandom rather than the Dream SMP as a whole. Its mentions of the narrative are passing at best, often leaving the reader with more questions than answers. In Drawing Minecraft, Small Stories on Metagames from 2023, Arsan discusses how understanding small stories, the, quote, kinds of tellings that take place in everyday life when young people meet, unquote, can help understand young people and their culture in online spaces, using a teenager doing Dream SMP fan art as an example. This is echoed in a later article, Talking Fan Art, Small Stories About Drawings and Games, which goes more in depth about certain events of the Dream SMP in the context of this teenager's creative works. One needs a lot of context to get what is going on in the fan art, and to be able to understand and interface with young people about it, ultimately engaging in what they're into. While Arsand does not fundamentally grasp the concept of MCRP or the Dream SMP as a whole, referring to the Dream SMP as a video game instead of something that takes place inside a video game, these pieces do point out that the narratives and characters are important to the people who enjoy them, and that is worth being studied. Finally, in El Enfoque Narrativo Épico y Bélico en Series Transmedia en Directo, translated The Epic and War Narrative Approach in Live Transmedia Series from 2025, Leheren et al. Use the Dream SMP as a case study to showcase how a live-streamed, improvised series can utilize the hero's journey and other epic narrative structures, and how its audience participated in that developing narrative. The paper compares the server to stories like Beowulf and the Odyssey, and understands that Minecraft is merely the vehicle for delivering the story presented to the audience. It also emphasizes how important the audience's enthusiasm for the story was in shaping it, drawing attention to particular fanfictions and animations along the way. While I could not trawl the breadth of all academic aggregate sites to see if anyone had written about MCYT or MCRP in depth, the things I did find were illuminating. First and foremost, the actual analysis in the academic world on the narratives present in MCRP is minimal. Only in Leheren et al. Was I able to find a sincere, thorough examination of a roleplay storyline, its narrative elements, and its merits as a story. While McCallum Stewart, Durand, and Arsan's interviewee give lip service to their respective servers' storylines, none of these talked about what their stories meant or represented. A unifying theme I found within my research was the abundance of scholars mentioning MCRP before quickly saying that someone should study it, but there is not enough time in their current piece. Between quotes like, "One neglected area is open-ended sandbox games like Minecraft, which are used by players as settings for constructing their own narratives," and "We lack the ability to undertake a sophisticated analysis of a new media environment in terms of text, technology, and cultural form because we have not yet established adequate scholarship." It leads one to ask why no one else has really dug into the meat of an MCRP narrative in an academic context. In part, it may be a result of how new the genre is, and how new media studies take some time to get off the ground. There is also a focus in academia on how Minecraft and other video games can be used to benefit specifically children. The idea that video games are solely something for children and adolescents to enjoy and learn from is still pervasive in the academic world. While Arsant does say that the narratives are important to understand, he does so with the intention of further understanding young people, not the actual story being told. McCallum Stewart brings up two specific quotes I found poignant to the discussion. In Online Games, Social Narratives, 2014a, she states that discussion of podcasting tends to discuss its educational merit and practical usages in such, rather than examining its creative potential, while in Diggy Holes and Jaffa Cakes, The Rise of the Elite Fan Producer in Video Gaming Culture from 2013, she says, "Claims that the game is highly educational were quickly applied in order to justify Minecraft's merit. Calling a game educational is both bland and inappropriate. It is an insult to the creative potential of Minecraft to call it important solely for an educational experience for children, in the same way that it was for podcasting. The issue with talking about Minecraft roleplay as a text in most settings is that you often need to first get over the hurdle of explaining that there is no story inherent to the game, but that the game is being used as a medium." Deswani in 2019 says this best: "Minecraft might be better described as a digital platform than a game because it facilitates and promotes complex literary practices that cannot be ascribed to a single category of activity, such as gaming." Arsant's misapprehension of the Dream SMP as a game in and of itself mirrors this exact issue. Plotlines in MCRP are understudied because those who would approve of the research do not understand the medium. Leheren et al. Do not apologize for the medium in the same way that Arsant's subject does. They simply steamroll over it to discuss the plot structure, and for that, I am grateful. Back in 2013, when explaining the plot of the Blackrock Chronicle to fellow students in my middle school art class or my summer camp cohort, I would often leave out a key detail. I would explain the story of Rithian and Zoya, I would talk about the highs and lows of their story and how incredible or iconic some of the story beats were, but would very carefully neglect to mention, for fear of ostracization or their bafflement, was that all of this was taking place in Minecraft. Because, what do you mean? You mean to tell me they're playing Minecraft? The block game with no plot, where you kill monsters and try to get diamonds? There's no story in that. What do you mean they put nukes under the castle? Can't you just respawn if you die in the game? Once you get over the hurdle of understanding the medium, once you enter a community that understands the story's vehicle and acknowledges it with the same casual disregard that one acknowledges that fire is hot or water is wet, that is when you can begin to discuss the story and how it interacts with the game as a whole. For some projects, the vehicle of Minecraft is inseparable from the plot. Evbo's Parkour Civilization from 2023 cannot function without the existence of Minecraft parkour. Other series, like Ivory Cello's White Pine from 2024, could be an independent series made for television, divorced from the game, had the creators only had the budget, means, and people for it. In this instance, the Dream SMP exists in both of these worlds. Some aspects, such as how players join the game at pivotal moments, organize their inventories as a means of characterization, and jumping off a plot-relevant one-by-one block tower only to fall into water and not be injured, can only happen in Minecraft. However, scenes like the Eggpire's betrayal at the Red Banquet, the climactic duel for independence between Dream and Tommy Innit, or any of Quackity's Las Nevadas cinematics from 2022 could be done in many mediums. Minecraft just happens to be the vehicle for their delivery. You just have to take it on the chin that some of these things are going to be silly. You're going to get emotional over a character named Mumbo Jumbo. You're going to mourn the loss of a city called L'Manberg. You're going to get excited when a discarded maggot named Jerry shows up as a player character dressed like an anthropomorphic fly, because that means the team's about to go on a quest. You're going to cheer as a child rescues his siblings from a booby-trapped building, ignoring that said child is an egg with legs and a massive mustache. Once you get over the inherent silliness of it all, both in the works themselves and in the fandom at large, beautiful, meaningful stories can be told. At the end of the day, many people in this fandom are, in the immortal words of my college roommate, slapping each other's nuts off over funny Mind Man drama. These stories deserve to be analyzed, without the stigma of their medium or of their communities standing in the way. Yeah, it's Minecraft. So what? These are stories of good versus evil, of survival and abuse of power, of the relationships between parent and child, of misogyny and homophobia in a period setting, of war and hope and how love was always there. In the early days of YouTube, all you needed was a webcam and something to edit on. Sometimes a story doesn't have to be told through special effects on the silver screen. Sometimes it can be on Twitch with a webcam mic, a gaming laptop, halfway decent internet connection, and an open-world video game where you can do, build, and be whatever you want. There is much to be studied and analyzed in MCRP, both in community and in narrative. This scene, therefore, is an exploration of that.